This baby is the Exocet, yet another amazing OTF from Microtechknives, and it's kind of a special one as it's a limited edition Sandtrooper colorway from their famous Star Wars lineup. Hey everyone, welcome to Salvo EDC, and yet again I'm behind schedule because I wanted to feature this knife a little closer to May the 4th, but who cares because I can celebrate Star Wars every day of the year, no problem. And the same way I also upload to Instagram and TikTok every day, so if you want to see my coolest knife pictures, come check them out. And now let's get down to business, because since May started, this knife stuck with me as my daily driver. It's that good and I really love it. Not only as a pocket knife, but also as an oversized money clip or even as a card holder. Microtech is one of my favorite knife companies and they definitely know how to make great automatic blades, especially OTFs. As expected, this knife has a snappy and reliable action ever since I got it, and I use it almost every day, sometimes as a fidget toy, and the way it works is just flawless. I know very well that OTFs are not as reliable as conventional folder blades, as their spring-loaded system is prone to dust and dirt. However, even though I've had this knife since 2022, I've never had to clean its inside. This was my first ever OTF pocket knife, so before I got it I did not really know what to expect. And knowing myself, I was a bit worried that it would not last too long, because I'm a very clumsy person and I tend to beat up both myself and my gear. And this Exocet especially got a fair bit of my awkwardness, but to my biggest surprise, it just did not care. It's just so long lasting and reliable that it both looks and feels new. And every time I pick it up, this Exocet just blows me away. And its short and chubby form factor just makes it even more unique and cool. And I know that some of you might not be familiar, so let me show you the action slowly. Microtech has this well-pronounced and grippy OTF switch that starts pulling on a coil spring as I push it forward, and my movement builds up the tension as I actuate the button. So the spring stretches out until it reaches a certain point when all the build-up tension gets released and deploys the blade in a quick and violent fashion. It also works just the same backwards, and it requires the same amount of effort too. If I wanted to describe the force needed to open this knife, I would definitely not call it effortless, which is a good thing, because now I can rest easy knowing that my Exocet will not open itself inside my pocket. This is very important, since most Microtech knives, just like this one, come without a safety switch. In my opinion, this is not a problem, and I never had any issues with any of my Microtechs, and you can trust me on this front, especially after having a truckload of unsafe crap landing on my table lately. From Lion Steel, Kaiser and Kershaw. Since those knives I kinda purposely try to reach the point where a knife fails, but to my biggest surprise my Exocet remained dead reliable. On top of being safe, this OTF mechanism is still super duper intuitive and fun to use. And every time I make people try this knife, it just puts a smile on everyone's face, which is a huge deal, because if people think that a knife is fun, they will be less afraid of it, and they will want to carry and use it a lot more often. And when it comes to spring-loaded pocket knives in general, I think OTF knives have a lot more usability over automatic folders by a large margin, because they allow easy and smooth one-handed operation. Meanwhile, in the case of an automatic folder knife, you need to fight the spring all the way back, most probably with both of your hands. And don't misunderstand me, it's not that I dislike a good old ProTech or this Hogue EX5 for example, because these knives are also amazing. However, if I need to pick just one mechanism for EDC, I would probably choose an OTF. Especially from Microtech, they are just so good. However, there's a big downside to OTFs that we need to talk about, and that is the so-called OTF blade wobble, which is kind of a built-in feature since the blade moves in and out on a rail. If you ever handled any cheap like sub $100 cheap gas station OTFs, you might know what do I mean. But I'm happy to announce that my Exocet is almost completely free from this issue. Out of all directions you can move this blade, I mean left, right, up or down, it only wobbles a little bit to the downside, and upwards it feels rock solid, which is pretty nice because normally that's the direction I wanna cut. I can sense just a hint of side to side blade play, but it's so insignificant that I could compare it to some of my Spyderco pocket knives. And genuinely speaking, I have similarly priced premium manual folder knives that have a lot more blade play than this. Benchmade. And from a $300 OTF, this is insane performance. But wait, there's one other big downside to this OTF mechanism, because in niche cases they might misfire. Such a niche case, for example, is when the user is really dumb. But what happens when this knife misfires, you ask? Well, let me show you and quickly just roleplay that my parents were cousins and open my Exocet against this table. As you see, the spring goes off with full force, but the blade gets stuck. If this happens to you for the first time, it might freak you out, as you might believe that you just broke your precious knife. But this is really not a big deal, and it's very simple to fix. The only thing you must do is to pinch and pull the blade until it clicks back to its intended position, and from that point the automatic action works again. Basically, we just needed to reset the blade and the spring. Now let's talk about the pocket clip, which is probably the next most important thing, and I bet everybody's curious about how this knife works and behaves if I try to use it as a card holder. To be honest, it's pretty much perfect. It's the best money clip knife that I've ever used, seen, or even just heard about, and I've tried quite a few ones, including the SOG Ultra XR or even the Spyderco McBee. But the Exocet just simply became the champion, mainly because it remains functional even after loading it with a pile of cash and some credit cards. So you can pop the blade open anytime you want, cut some rope, open packages, do a bunch of stuff, and all this without feeling the need to remove anything. This is a huge difference between the Exocet and other conventional folders, because a normal knife might not even function since your cards could prevent you from opening or closing them. And this leads me to another thing I wanted to point out in this review. The fact that I had a ton of poor experience with my previous similarly multifunctional quote-unquote card holder pocket knives just makes me appreciate the Exocet a lot more. And for this niche application, at this present moment, I just simply don't know a better alternative. And even without this handicap situation I just described, this is a beautifully constructed knife and I enjoy every single aspect of it. Aluminum is a very good material for automatic knives because it has the necessary impact resistance, yet it's strong and light, so it eliminates the need for steel liners and also makes the knife easier to maintain. With anodization and Ceracoting, aluminum can also get all kinds of fancy colors. And Microtech does a good job at surprising us with new editions of these blades every couple of months. I'm really into the Outbreak versions with all those messed up green handles, but my grand favorite is still the Sandtrooper one, because it matches really well with all my gear, including my Dark Earth FRN standard issue. And of course, I'm pretty much into the Star Wars theme as well, so just in case, I got this pretty cool undead bucket bead to make my Exocet complete. This thing, by the way, reminds me one of my favorite childhood video games, which was Star Wars Republic Commando. Since Delta Squad had a very specific forearm blade that looks just like this OTF pocket knife. And as a kid it was my favorite way to splash all those ugly bugs on Geonosis. When I got my Exocet, it just brought back all the good memories. And now we could get into a legit argument which clone is the coolest from the Star Wars universe. But it would be pointless because everyone knows that Scorch is the GOAT! The GOAT! So now that everyone agrees, let's talk about blade steel. We got Bowler M390, which is a great choice for an OTF, because usually you keep this knife tucked away in moist places, plus the blade is constantly locked up in this capsule body. Therefore, having the super stainless M390 with an extra layer of Ceracote all over it is just amazing. Another very nice thing with M390 is edge retention, and even though I had this knife for 2 full years now, I've never had to sharpen this dagger edge, which would probably not be the easiest thing to do. On top of the edge retention, Microtech's grind department put a very nice geometry on this blade, so even if the edge starts to get dull a bit, this blade will still cut from its precise angles. The weakness of M390 would be probably toughness, but to be completely honest, I never really gave this thing a task that could have challenged it from a toughness perspective. Mostly, I think I use my Exocet to open packages and cut some paper. However, it really upsets me that it is not indicated on this blade that it was in fact made of M390. Especially since Microtech billboarded a whole encyclopedia on this pocket clip that they could not put there 4 tiny extra letters saying M390. The only reason I actually learned about the steel Cause by accident I stumbled upon an interview when a Microtech employee said that during the period this knife was made, they could only buy M390, which is pretty irritating. And in my opinion, knowing what steel my knife is made of is necessary if one day I decide to give it a new edge. So I really hope that in the future Microtech will mark the steel on every single blade they make. But other than this one thing, I have absolutely no other needs to pick on this Exocet. It's probably one of the best knives I've ever handled, not only in the realm of automatics, but also in general. And if we are already here, I must pull up my MSI again, because this is yet another fantastic Microtech, and if you guys would like to see a review on this one, you should smash subscribe, because it is coming soon. Until that video drops, I invite you to check out my latest and greatest 2 uploads about this already mentioned Zigzauer by Hogue EX5 and this concept core with Excel. Thank you for watching my video all the way, and I'll see you in the next one.